Hi, this is Anil and welcome to the video tutorial for the Learning Lab on C++ programming. So in this tutorial we're going to learn how to pass the parameter to the base class constructors and also how to call the base class constructors in the derived class. So let's begin. So just for the demonstration purpose in this tutorial I'm going to create a class and let's call it as father, and here as a protected member let's have an integer height, and then we're gonna create the constructor. So it's gonna be a public constructor and it's gonna be father, the same name as the class name. Here this father is gonna take an integer value and that value will be stored in this height, so it's gonna be int and h. So here inside this constructor first we're gonna say constructor of father is called, and let's end this line, and then we're gonna store that value received to this variable h in this height. So it's gonna be height equal to h. Alright, now the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna create a child class. Let's call it as child, and this child class will be inheriting from this father class, so it's gonna be father. So now in this child class we're gonna call the constructor of this base class father. So we're gonna have a child class constructor, so it's gonna be child, and then this child class constructor is gonna take a parameter. So let's say an integer value, it's gonna be int, and let's call it as x. And then to call the base class constructor we need to use the colon here, and then the base class name which is father, and then the parameter to that. So here what I want to do is I want to pass the value received to this child class constructor to this base class constructor. So here I can do that by referring to this variable x. So x here, that's it. So when this statement will be executed, the C++ will come to know that okay, whatever the parameter that I'm gonna receive as a constructor parameter to this child class, I'm gonna pass that to the base class. So the C++ is gonna call the base class constructor and it's gonna pass the value of this variable x to it. So then if you want to define the body of your child class constructor, you guys can do that. So here we're gonna say child class constructor, and let's end this line. And the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna build another method, and let's call it as display, and this method is gonna display the value of this member height. So it's gonna be cout height is, and then I'm gonna refer height which is available in this child class. That's because it is protected member. So now I'm gonna create an object of this child class. So in my main function it's gonna be child, and let's call it as Anil, and we need to pass a parameter. That's because we have only one constructor here, and it's gonna take an integer value, let's say 24, and after that I'm gonna call anil.display and save this program, build and run this. Hopefully we don't have any error. Alright, now you guys can see when we create an object of this child class and we pass the value, what happens, all of us know that the constructor of the base class will be called first. So the C++ is gonna take the value here in this child class constructor, and then it's gonna call the base class constructor and pass the value. And that's why this 24 is passed to this father constructor, and it is stored in this member height, and it just printed the constructor of the father is called, and after that the body of the child class constructor is executed, and that's why we get child class constructor, and then because of the display function we get height is 24. So here what we have done is we have passed the value to this base class constructor. If you don't want to pass the value, you guys can skip that. So here I'm not gonna initialize this height here, so I'm gonna leave it, and we're not gonna pass the value. But in this child class we're gonna initialize this member height, so it's gonna be height equal to x here. And now if I save this, okay, don't make any spelling mistake, and now if I save this program and run it, build and run, I'll get the same thing. Alright, you guys can see constructor of the father is called, child class constructor, and height is 24. So now we have learned how to call the base class constructor in the derived class constructor, and also how to pass the value to the base class constructor in the derived class constructor. The next thing that I want you guys to teach you is what if we have the multiple inheritance. What if we have another class here? Let's copy that father class and paste it in the next line, and we're gonna change this one to mother, and let's include the string header file. So it's gonna be hash include and string. Alright, now we're gonna have a string member here in this mother class. Let's say string skin color, and we're gonna call this constructor mother. And alright, then what we're gonna do is we're gonna take two values in this child class, and let's say string color. Okay, now let's say this child class is inheriting from this mother class also. So let's make it public inheritance. So public father comma public mother. All right, now this child class is inheriting from two classes. So the child class constructor is taking two parameters, and here we need to call the constructor both the base classes. So here I'm gonna add a comma, and then I'm gonna call the constructor of mother, and that's it. And now it's gonna call the constructor of this base class mother also, and then we're gonna store the value in this string skin color. So it's gonna be skin color equal to color, and here we need to change this one to mother, because it is the mother class constructor, and age is something, and after that we're gonna say skin color age, and then I'm gonna refer to that. So it's gonna be skin color, and let's add the stream insertion operator again. Alright, now we have a child class which is inheriting from two base classes, and also we have learned how to call the constructors of the two base classes in the derived class. So here when we create an object, we need to pass two values. So first one is an integer value, and second one is an string value. So I'm gonna pass, let's say, white, and okay, now I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna build and run this, and hopefully we don't have any error. Alright, now you guys can see constructor of father is called, constructor of mother is called, and the child class constructor, and it says height is 24, skin color is white. Okay, while spelling mistake, no problem. Alright, now if you want to pass the values to this base class constructors, you guys can do that, that I have explained you in the beginning of this tutorial. So this is it, guys. This is how you guys can call the constructor of a base class in the derived class and pass parameters to that base class constructor. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.